Other items, road crossings. We got two road crossings, county road down here and the highway here. Both of those are bridge type structures with capacity not being an issue. There is no basically upsized or anything for capacity purposes, and they're fine. We also have two private crossings. We got two private crossings basically down here in section 6. The one basically was installed, new pipe was installed in 2003. That pipe is a 78-inch pipe. Upstream in section 6 is a 72-inch pipe. We analyzed the capacity of both pipes. The 78 we have found is restrictive in capacity as well as the 72. The 78, which was installed in 2003, we found to be needing to be a 96-inch for capacity purposes. What we look at on capacity is two things. We take a look at how much head restriction does the culvert cause. We first look at the ditch and say, if there wasn't any culvert there, what's the flow depth of the channel under normal drainage flow? Then we model a culvert in there, and how much head rise does it take for the water to push through that culvert. We like to keep that in a foot rise elevation, because a lot of the tile systems that come into the facility are designed to come in with a free-flowing outlet that the foot rise in water starts possibly putting some back pressure on the system. But it doesn't do any good to size a big pipe there if the channel itself cannot take the water. So in other words, if the flows start going out of bank before they can push through the culvert, we also look at the carrying capacity of the ditch. Through section 6, the overall depth of the ditch isn't that deep. So what we looked at, what is the maximum size of culvert that reduces our head down and yet allows the flow, the bank flow capacity of the channel to move through the culvert. And that's how we sized the 96-inch culvert. We then went back to the record and found that in 2003, or actually in 2002, I believe is the date, that Bud Vogt at that time, that was still district watchman, had recommended a 96-inch in that location. However, at the time that it was approved by the board, it was approved as a 78-inch going in that location. We, in looking at both of that, and then the 72 is actually a foot. Actually, the 78 is installed about 1 foot below channel grade, and the 72 is actually installed 1.9 feet below channel grade, which is, you got a lot of wasted capacity of the pipe. If it's buried 2 feet below channel, you got only the upper 4 feet of the pipe that's open for carrying capacity of that pipe. That pipe also is in poor condition. It's been in there a long time, needs to be removed and replaced. So, both of those are private crossings. The landowners are responsible for the cost and upkeep and stuff of the private crossings. The district pays a severance damage at the time of establishment if the land is severed where there isn't public access on both sides of the facility to that given property. Severance damages are paid once. From there forward, basically the crossing becomes the landowner's responsibility. In this case, we found that a 78 in this location upstream would be adequate. So what we would recommend is that the 78, which is a only 6-year-old pipe, be salvaged out of the lower location and utilized as the crossing upstream, and that would be a individual private transaction between the two landowners. Okay?
Who are the two landowners, so they know?
The upper one is Bud Vogt, the lower one is
Benson.
Mr. Benson. Is he here today?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Moving on. At the next item of interest, at the top end of this open ditch is a wood bulkhead drop structure, a weir drop structure. Basically, the tile system that came down here needed a place to outlet into the open ditch, plus this land here in section 32 actually surface drains to this location. So they used the wood treated lumber bulkhead that has a weir notch, 12-foot wide weir notch for the surface water to drop over with a concrete apron in the bottom of this structure. It also serves as the bulkhead that the tile main comes through and outlets to the open ditch. That structure is in poor shape. The wood structure, we couldn't find actual record as to when that wood structure was constructed. In 1985, the original bulkhead up here and that outlets from this relief tile system was originally constructed in 1920 and was replaced in 1985. When we first saw that, we thought we were talking about this bulkhead, that this wood structure was replaced in 85. Then we found out by location, no, we're talking about the bulkhead up there. So, in discussion with Bud Vogt, I did ask him about it, and he says, been there as long as he can remember. So, I'm guessing that bulkhead's been in there possibly from the 40s. But right now the timbers are rotting off. The wood, there is erosion down the backside of the bulkhead itself, and overall the horizontal timbers are also starting to fail. So that structure, we evaluated replacement. It has basically a 5-foot overfall. So we looked at an aluminum toe wall structure that basically could be utilized to replace that. That has, maybe you've seen them, they're circular in shape where the water flows over basically 3 sides onto a concrete apron. We looked at that structure compared to replacing it with another treated lumber bulkhead. And the cost difference was significant. We're talking about the wooden structure in the $6,000 range and the aluminum weir structure in the $13,000 range. So our recommendation would be tear this one out and reconstruct another timber, a treated timber bulkhead in that location. Okay. Other things of inventory discussed in the report, fence removal. If the open ditch is cleaned out, basically we have some parallel fence along the open ditch that will have to be removed so that we can basically do our excavation and spread the spoil. If you got a perpendicular fence that comes into the open ditch, we have to lay it back about 100 feet so we got access basically to do that work. In total, we came up with about 3,566 linear feet of fence that will be involved, basically need to be removed. If the fence is inside of the district's right-of-way, the district does not pay for replacement of that fence. If the fence is outside of the district's right-of-way, the landowner can claim damage at the end of the project for replacement of that fence. If he doesn't want the fence replaced, basically the district, in part of the construction, will remove the fence and dispose of it. But if you want to put it back, basically you're going to have to file a claim at the end of the project for, and the landowner is responsible for the replacement. He gets reimbursed if it's outside of the right-of-way. He does not get reimbursed if it's inside of the right-of-way. Okay?